My name is Sanjay Parmar, and I'm based at Reach, Derby. Now, normally at this point, we would have someone share a message. However, considering the tumultuous events this past week, we as a leadership team felt it important to begin a discussion and a dialogue around the issues that these events have brought forth. I'm sure we're all aware of these events over the past month in America that have culminated in a number of issues highlighting the challenges around racism and racist behavior and racial discrimination. We've had incidences such as Ahmaud Arbery and Amy Cooper, and culminating in the sad death of George Floyd. We've seen peaceful protests across all of America, which sometimes have unfortunately turned into violent protests. And these protests have begun to touch our shores as well. It's not just an issue that is isolated to America. We've seen many peaceful protests take place across the UK. As Reach and as a body of Christ, we felt it important to begin discussing these issues because we believe we have something to say and to speak into these situations. After all, we are ambassadors of Christ. We all carry Christ's heart within us. And I believe Christ's heart within us is a cry of lamentation, of grieving, and of forgiveness and asking forgiveness and healing. So I'm really pleased to welcome a number of folks to this discussion today. Joining Karina, Martin and I, we have Oginna, Rhondell Stabana and Emmanuel Chiweshe. Hi and welcome all. Okay, before we start, I thought it'd be a great idea just to get introduced to who's on the panel. So if you could tell us your name and a little bit about yourself, just starting with Abby.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is AB. I am a medical doctor, a mom, a wife, and a Christian, not in any particular order. I have been a doctor for about 11 years-ish, and currently I'm starting to be a pediatrician currently.
Which church do you go to, worship at?
Yeah, so I'm a member of Reach Derby. Been coming for about 2 years now, and I'm loving it.
Brilliant. Rhondell?
Yeah, I'm Rhondell, 24, part of Reach Derby. Came as a student in 2013. Yeah, 2013, so I've been here coming up to 7 years now. And yeah, I work for the university, I work with student athletes, married to Katie, and yeah, I lead the student group with her at Reach Derby.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rhondell. Emmanuel?
Great, and I'm Emmanuel. I'm from Nottingham, so we worship at Reach Nottingham. Married to my lovely wife, Charlotte, and we've got a 1-year-old now in the house, which is great fun. And yeah, I work with young people in our local school and also as part of our church here in Reach Nottingham.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Great. Hello, everyone, and welcome. So, Karina, I think you probably have a question.
Yeah, hi. Today we really want to listen and learn, so we really appreciate you guys coming and just sharing with us. But I just wanted to hear your reflections as you've watched the events unfolding the last week. Maybe you've watched that awful video of the death of George. How did that make you feel? What kind of feelings sort of came up in you? What was your reaction and response to that? And any of you, do you want to start, Emmanuel?
Yeah, I think last week was a tough week for all of us. And I think watching it, the most heartbreaking thing was seeing how inhumane the situation was. The amount of time, I don't know if you watched the video, but watching it for so long and seeing that there was no respect for a person's life. And just weeks before that, we're hearing other stories of Black people getting chased down and shot. And then it was just heartbreaking. I remember just crying and just thinking, is this really the world that we live in? And actually, now the whole world is seeing it. We've been silent, we've been quiet, but this has been going on, and it just happened to be captured on camera. And even to now, I love what's going on in response, but it's been so heartbreaking, and yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, really painful to watch. Anyway else, AB, what about you? How did it make you feel over what were some of the feelings you've been through the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's been heartbreaking. I think the difficulty is that different people experience varying degrees of it, and you even see it come across in the different posts on social media, how people have experienced it to different extents, but there are still really severe cases that are happening that just shouldn't be happening anymore. That was total disregard for life, and it's just heartbreaking. It really is.
Yeah. And even some of the films and videos that have been coming out around the protests and how people have been treated, I think that's been quite shocking as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Rhondell? How's it made you feel?
Yeah, similar to the other guys, but just I did feel like a quite deep-seated anger. If you watch the full video, it really it's just something else. It's crazy, really. I had to take a few hours out to sit in the garden and actually just really process what I'd seen. As Sky was saying, like the disregard for life, the inhumanity of it all. Yeah, it was shocking. It was horrifying. Lots of emotion throughout these weeks recently, and I think there was a balance between being shocked and also not shocked at the same time, which just goes to show how some Black people are so desensitized and almost used to say, "Oh, it's another one." So a mix of emotions and definitely still processing them.
Yeah. So maybe not so shocking for you, but it's come to all of our awareness. I think for many of us, it's been shocking because I don't think we had understood quite how bad things were there, but not just there, but how that works right through society in so many areas. But it was really stark. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, guys. It's been a hard week, I'm sure.
So, Rhondell, you said earlier on that yourself and Katie lead the student work in Derby. I'm really personally invested in this question, really, because I've got two young daughters who, let's just say, they're not backwards and coming forwards, probably a chip off the old block from my wife. So in your interactions with the students, what are you seeing and what what's out there?
Yeah, we've got quite I'd say interracial, but also international student group. There's students from all over the world, and it's been interesting seeing that in our age demographic anyway. So the millennials, the Gen Z guys, that there's been quite a huge response on social media. I'm sure some have seen like with the Blackout Tuesday and just a wave of information being shared that I've never seen the sort of support before. But I've been quite proud of our group. They've really dug deep. On Tuesday we had a community meetup, and we just gave space for the Black students to have their say, really, and they shared stories of racism, both historic in their family, but also quite recent, even at the point of being at university. So yeah, and it was good to see their white friends just listening and engaging, asking the right questions. And as a group, we're committed to having more of those conversations, doing more and learning more. So yeah, it's been like the rest of the world, like the media's been showing, there's been a huge amount of support and sadness and a need for and a want for reconciliation. So that's just been mirrored in our group, and it's been really good to see the discussions that are taking place.
And Emmanuel, you with young people, has that been similar for you? Have you had any sort of idea of their response and reaction, or maybe they've shared some of their experiences as Black young people and how it's been for them?
Yeah, been quite proud of our young people, actually, during this time and even before that, because I think we're looking at a generation that's really for social justice, and they don't stand for things that don't make sense. Like, why would you just hate somebody for the sake of it? So they're willing to get their voices heard and stand out amongst those that may not agree with their view or standing against what their generations have been saying about other races and stuff. But it has been good to just see them like say, we're going to join in, we're going to speak out as well, and start listening and having the conversations that we don't understand. Where has this all come from? Why is there so much hatred against people of different colors or and backgrounds? And they desperately want to know because they want to be part of that change. So I think in the response I've seen from young people is just that we're not going to sit back and just say it's happening over there. We're going to want to find out, and we're going to want to do something about it and speak out about it.
Yeah.
Maybe can I ask you, I mean, as somebody from a white background, maybe is there anything you can share with us to try and understand, you know, how you might experience kind of racism? It might be personal, it might be institutional, it might be outside the church, or it might have been inside the church. Is there anything you can share that kind of would just help us to give a bit of insight onto what that feels like growing up in the UK as a Black person?
Yeah, so I didn't grow up in the UK. I moved to the UK when I was 16, but I remember though the huge difference in kind of the atmosphere and my surrounding and how it was that I felt when I arrived here compared to how it was when I was at home. Everything just felt foreign. I think a lot of it, as you said, is institutional. People actually have done things a certain way for so long that they don't actually realize that that certain way excludes the minority of people. And when things like this happen, the hope is that it'll just begin to shine a light on things, and people will just begin to realize that some of their actions and some of the things that they've done without thinking has actually just been excluding people and not really letting people of minority groups emerge and be free and live fully. So it cuts across jobs, how that there's reduced opportunities. It's a well-known fact that it is a huge struggle for people of minority groups to actually get to the top. Huge statistics out there showing that, and there are lots of reasons for it. It also cuts across to your work areas and people not actually talking to you, not knowing how to act around you, and just being awkward around you, and not realizing that you're just a normal person who they can talk to. So just a wide variety of things. And I think if we just do a little bit of self-reflection on the people around us and what we can do to actually start to make changes and start to be more open to people of other backgrounds, I think that will go a long way. I think there are things that every one of us can do. It starts with each of us.
Great, thanks. That's brilliant, thanks.
Yeah. I think that probably leads on to the next question then. And all of you are followers of Jesus, and you belong to Reach in the various hubs that we have. Coming from that perspective, how do you think we as a church, as individuals, can begin to respond, recognizing that it's not a quick fix?
I think the big thing would be, well, it kind of goes for both, but like educate yourselves as a church, and as white people, but also educate yourselves as black people as well. There's lots of injustices that have happened through the church, and I think the church is very good at forgetting its role in slavery, and it's very good at remembering its role in the abolition side of things, but it's not very good at remembering the fact that it was one of the instrumental parts of starting in the first place, and keeping slaves under control and utilizing of the Bible for that as well. So it's as the church, remembering history and kind of bringing that to the forefront. I've watched a lot of videos since from different churches, different leaders in like the Church of England, who've all kind of pushed and said, actually, we need to reconcile and repent. So even to the form of actually, we follow Jesus. We know that adding more knowledge doesn't lead to salvation. Repentance leads to salvation. So I think also we have the picture in Revelation about every nation from all tribes, peoples and languages, and we hear our church is about bringing heaven to earth. We exist to bring heaven to earth. So if that's the picture of heaven, then that's what we need to be bringing about. And I think it's reminding ourselves of that, and striving for that, basically. And there's lots of stuff, but we don't have too long. But I think there was something else around like the whitewashing of Christianity, and that view that Christianity is almost like a white religion, and the education of I think again it was a leader from the Church of England who talked about their even their curriculum needs to be decolonized. So there's a way that they teach theology in the Church of England. I can't speak for our church, but I don't know how that works, but there's a way that it's taught, and it's just as big of an issue as then the result at the end. So looking at decolonizing the curriculum from schools, but also from theological training as well. Yeah.
I was listening to Pastor Agu today from London, and he said, admitting and confronting our institutional racism is a significant step in pouring balm on the wounds that exist. And I think it could be to go, well, it's okay, it's a new day now, without really understanding and appreciating the hurt that's gone on in the past, and the way the church hasn't welcomed people of colour, and the history in that. So that we can move forward in a new way, and actually see what you talked about in Revelation, nations together. And but I think it is a challenge, and even a church like ours, because it very often there does seem to be an underrepresentation. We can be a very multicultural church, but sometimes even there can be barriers as people grow in leadership. And any advice you've got for us really about how to encourage that and to make room in the church so that people can grow in their gifts and calling and leadership, how we can do that better and do that more?
So, me personally, let me start by saying this. I've seen a lot on social media, and I've been encouraged by some of the things I've seen. I've seen pictures of maybe white folks in authority or white police kneeling and asking for forgiveness to people who were marching in peaceful demonstration and protests and things like that. And that really got to me. That really resonated within me. So I think if you want to treasure other nationalities coming in, you might need to change how you do things a bit, and not hide behind, oh, this is Europe and this is how we do things, and ask them how they do things and change things a little bit. For example, it might be something as easy as checking on them. I know there's all sorts of rules and there's all sorts of things about privacy and all that, but personally, where I come from, you'll hear lots of Africans say, oh, I was sick last week and no one called me. And it's really weird, but we kind of believe that, or if I go to your church and you value me as a member, a text once in a while will go a long way, or a call. And I think there's a lot of that that's not being done because it's not really the culture here. But we are probably more, we want to hear from people who we think value us. And I think if we did things a little bit differently in that way, you will get more people who think they are valued and will want to serve more because they've been made to feel valued.
Great, that's good advice, to try and listen and hear and actually not just say come and join in, but come and bring whatever it is that you've got of your background, your individual gifts, your culture, and we want that in the church. And I think that needs an openness for all of us to change and to flex as God brings different kinds of people into our church, and that's uncomfortable sometimes. But I also think it's really exciting, as we might start to actually look like that vision of heaven that God gives.
Yeah.
So,
amen.
Thanks. That's really helpful.
Yeah. I suppose there's a key question here, isn't there? And I think it's been alluded to, this is the heart that Karina's coming from. Is that what could you say to our white brothers and sisters in how they can respond in this situation?
Yeah, I think first of all, there's a call for us to empathize. I don't think, white people, or actually some black people as well, are ever going to fully understand the extent of racism that other people face. But doesn't mean that we ignore it. And I think one of the most beautiful things of the last week is that people are saying, yes, that happened in America, in this town or city, but the whole world saying, actually, now we might not have felt that, but actually, let's think of how they were feeling. Let's see how other people are feeling. So when we're watching the news, or when we're talking to our black brothers and sisters or from other minority groups, is really empathizing of where could they be coming from, how could they be feeling, and how would I want to be treated if I was in their position, because I may never get to feel the way that they do. Secondly, I think prayer is quite an important thing. I think we need to be constantly praying for our world and in this area of like injustice and racism, because I think I was speaking to Rhondell earlier on in the week. I was saying we're probably in a fortunate place that we've landed in a place where we are loved, we feel welcomed, and sometimes there is not that tension. But actually, that's not the case for everyone. So we cannot just be comfortable and say like, oh, because it's okay where we are, it must not be happening anywhere else. Actually, we need to recognize that even though we may be doing some things right, we need to constantly be praying for those that are not in our doors. Why is there only people that you can count on your hand of minority groups coming into our churches? How can we be praying that when they walk through the door, they do feel welcome, they do want to be here, and they do have a message from God that they want to share as well? So I think those two things are very, very important. I think empathy and prayer.
Yeah, thank you.
It's easy to say, we're not racist, but actually if we do nothing, then we're guilty of continuing injustice and racism. So I think it's us learning what we can do to walk alongside and speak out, as well as welcome. So maybe we need to just become a bit more militant. I don't know. But it's true here in the UK. It's easy to think, this is in America, but there are injustices and inequalities, and we've heard about those on the news, where that's health inequalities, opportunities, and we need to what the causes underlying that. So but yeah, I agree, Sky, that prayer is really important, isn't it? Because it's only God who can change hearts at the end of the day, because it's our hearts that need changing. And I think just this week, actually, even with our family, we've been praying, Lord, show us any attitudes in us that we carry around of racism or privilege or superiority, anything like that. Lord, would you root that out of us so that we can come humbly before you and love our brothers and sisters in the way that you would want us to. So that would be great.
I suppose I've got one last question. Is that what is your heart's cry and what is your heart's prayer for this nation, and the nations?
I think from more of a church perspective, that the church gets to the forefront of fighting this, and that we can't be left behind in this conversation or left behind in this fight. But yeah, so I think that would be my immediate reaction to that question would be that the church is at the forefront of fighting this injustice and is seen to be the most welcoming, the most engaging in terms of changing its ways institutionally and at a local level to welcome Black people and also ensure that they belong and are participating in and as you said, maybe earlier, about being part of the dinner table and giving their own gifts over to this. Yeah.
I think for me, my heart's cry will be that God will use this situation to just bring about a new wave of healing and a new wave of change, and forgiveness will be given and people will ask for forgiveness, and I'm already seeing that happening in various posts on social media. People are realizing what could I have possibly done to contribute to this, and they are basically offering, asking what can I do about this, and asking for forgiveness, basically. So I just pray that God uses this to bring about change, and that people determine in their heart to take a stance, not just now, but for the future. And even talking to people around you, even the children, and educating them, and just having a chat with your family and people around you about things that you can do differently.
I echo that, what's been said. I think to just add on, my heart's cry is that this is not just a phase that, we shout and scream this week and next week, but then in the third and fourth week, we're gone quiet again and gone back to our old ways. We go awkward again about having the conversations, and we marginalize those people that are crying out for the love and support. So my heart's cry is, now that the door's been opened, let's walk through it. Let's stand next to each other. Let's love one another. Let's see a visual expression of what God's love looks like here on earth.
I think that's a great challenge, isn't it? And I think this needs to be just the start of a conversation, both for us as a church and how we make sure that things change and are not blind to the things that we're blind to. So please continue to help us. But this needs to be the start of that conversation, the start of learning, I think, learning and helping to understand and educate. And it's been even great, this conversation, the things that we've learned and begun to understand about how to make people feel welcomed and included.
Guys, bless you. Really appreciate the time. Thank you for saying yes. It's sometimes not easy to say that, but brilliant. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Thanks for starting it. Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me as well.
Yeah. Brilliant. Bless you. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.